You're looking at live pictures of a new wildfire that's broken out in Los Angeles County today. The Hughes Fire, which is in a relatively unpopulated area, has already burned more than 5,000 acres north of Santa Clarita and is 0% contained. On Capitol Hill, meanwhile, Speaker Mike Johnson spoke today about congressional action on forest management that could be coming in the wake of the fires. And last night, he explicitly said conditions could be attached to California federal aid.
Yeah, we're talking about conditions to this disaster rate. Look, there are natural disasters, but there are man-made disasters as well, and they made terrible decisions. If there's culpability for what happened, there really needs to be conditions that follow that aid. It's not unprecedented, by the way. After Katrina in my state, there were conditions placed upon the funds. It happened after Hurricane Sandy up in the Northeast. So there's a tradition of doing this, and in California, it certainly makes sense.
And joining me now is California Democratic Congressman Bera. Congressman, thank you for joining us. I just want to start with your reaction to Speaker Johnson. What do you know about these conditions that he may be looking at?
You know, I think it's a dangerous precedent if we condition aid. We're all Americans. Yeah, when Louisiana suffers a catastrophe or what we saw in North Carolina, South Carolina, we should all come together as a nation and support those citizens that were affected. What's happening in my home state in Southern California with these fires, this probably is the worst disaster that we've ever seen. Again, I wouldn't attach conditions. I just think it's a bad precedent.
Is it a different story if the conditions are something like the Fix Our Forest Act, which you co-sponsor, or, you know, we're going to tie it to the debt ceiling as a way to get around a bunch of Republicans who don't want to vote for the debt ceiling?
You know, if they tie it to the debt ceiling, that is really heinous. And I certainly hope they don't go that route, because I think the American public will see exactly what that is. I'll vote for the Fix Our Forest Act. I did last time. I'm a co-sponsor of it. It would not have prevented this fire, but it will hopefully help us manage forests a little bit better, clear underbrush, and prevent fires that we've seen in the past in California and across the West. But that shouldn't be a condition of aid. As a country, we should come together when we see fellow citizens being challenged and help them.
For our viewers, we're continuing to look at live pictures of that fire, the Hughes Fire, while you're talking, Congressman. The president has some pretty strong feelings about all this. I want to play for you what he said last night about water in California.
Los Angeles has massive amounts of water available to it. All they have to do is turn the valve. So we're demanding that they turn the valve back toward Los Angeles right now. It's not even believable that they haven't done it. Just so you know, they have a valve and it turns like, think of a sink, but multiply it times many thousands of times the size of it. It's massive. And you turn it back toward Los Angeles. Why aren't they doing it?
Congressman, you're not from L.A. You're from further upstate, I guess, where the valve is. The president makes it sound like there's a very simple solution to California's water situation. What do you say?
There is no simple solution. I do represent the Sacramento area. Yeah, we've got a water system that relies on a big snowpack in the Sierra Nevadas that melts off slowly, and then we can move water south both to our farmers but also to Los Angeles. LA also depends on Colorado River water coming through there. So we know we've had massive droughts in the past and so forth. No easy solution here. Certainly we should come up with longer-term solutions that help us conserve water, better capture water when we have wet seasons, and move that water. But there's no magic wand and no magic valve.
Congressman, you're also a member of the House Intelligence Committee. We learned yesterday that this cyber review board that was investigating the so-called Salt Typhoon hack from China has been disbanded. How much does this hurt our understanding of what was going on there and the fight against other hacks in the future?
I mean, I certainly think we'll continue to do our work as the IC committee and the Intelligence Committee. But the president has the right to do this, but I think it's a bad idea, right? Because this is a group that is looking at all these cyber threats, looking at ways to work with the private sector to enhance our cybersecurity, and again, to wholesale get rid of all these boards makes us more vulnerable. And we know what China and others are already doing. You talked about Salt Typhoon. They're hacking into our telecom system. So it's a bad idea. I think it makes us much more vulnerable.
Having a board that can just be cashiered by the stroke of a pen and make the entire country much more vulnerable doesn't sound to me like the best way to investigate something that is so serious. Do you need to consider a more wholesale reform of how we look into these kinds of things to keep Americans safe if the president can just decide this board's not doing this anymore?
100%, right? And, you know, we can't every 4 years go back and forth. We're in a long-term competition with competitors, and we've got to have a long-term strategy. You know, whether it's talking about China, whether it's talking about Russia, whether it's talking about AI and cyber threats. And again, we can't go back and forth every 4 years. We've got to come together as Democrats and Republicans, lay out a long-term strategy that's not partisan, but that's good for America.
Congressman, Punchbowl News this morning had some smart reporting about this divide in the Democratic Party on how to message on Trump's immigration plans right now. Some people in the conference think Democrats ought to be speaking out more against his crackdowns. Others want to look like they're working together to sort of fight illegal immigration where it matters. Where do you stand on this issue? Is there kind of a Goldilocks response for Democrats, do you think?
Yeah, I think there is. So as someone who lived through the first Trump term, it was exhausting. You can't jump at everything. You have to get a sense of what he actually means. So if they really are targeting folks with criminal convictions, folks with existing deportation orders, I think it'd be very hard for Democrats to take a stance against that. On the other hand, if they're sending ICE agents into schools, into churches, picking up, folks that have not committed any crime, dreamers, things like that, I think you will see the party come together and push back.
What do you make of this Justice Department memo basically suggesting that local officials could face criminal charges or criminal investigations if they stand in the way or don't support the actions that the Trump ICE will take?
I think that's a real overreach. I've talked to my hometown sheriff and so forth. We have laws in California, and we intend to uphold and honor those laws. I would think a better approach with ICE, with the Trump administration, is approach and partner with local communities. But again, keep it focused on folks with criminal convictions, folks with existing deportation orders. And again, you could probably find some agreement. But if you're separating families, if you're going into schools, if you're going into churches, again, that's a slippery slope. I
think about your state where you've got so many needs right now, and a governor who's been butting heads with Donald Trump. Now you've got Trump suggesting we're to go after local officials. California really is kind of where the rubber meets the road between needs of millions of people and an administration that has its own goals. How do you work together with the Trump administration whose goals are so different when your needs are so great right now in the state of California?
Look, what I'd say is, not even meet us at the 50-yard line. We'll go to your 40-yard line, but don't go to the extremes. Don't try to take us to the end zone. If we can meet at the 40-yard line, we can get things done that meet the mandate that the American people elected you with, Mr. Trump. We can get things done. Again, they want secure borders. Great. We'll work with you there. They want to find folks with criminal convictions. We'll work with you there. Folks with deportation orders, we'll work with you there. But don't go after kids. Don't go after the dreamers. That isn't what they want. The public wants you to do.
All right, Congressman Bera, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Garrett. Be well.
You too.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.